and Pharmaceuticals in association with Higher Secondary Principals Forum.
Hi friends, and welcome to the history class brought to you by Prudent Media in collaboration with the Principals Forum. I am Luiza Pereira, teacher from Raghuvir and Premavati Salkar Higher Secondary School, Chorao. Today, I am going to explain to you the last chapter in your history textbook, part 3, and the name of the chapter is Mahatma Gandhi and the Nationalist Movement. Now, the weightage for this chapter is 10 marks, and as per the model question paper of Goa board, you will get 4 questions from this chapter, 1 question for 1 mark, another one for 2 marks, the third one for 3 marks, and the fourth one for 4 marks. So, total 10 marks from this chapter. Now, Mahatma Gandhi and the Nationalist Movement. In this chapter, we are going to learn about Mahatma Gandhi, right from the time he returned to India from South Africa in 1915 up to 1947, that is the independence of India. So, to begin with the chapter, Mahatma Gandhi, he returned to India in the year 1915 from South Africa after 20 years long stay over there. Now, when he returned to India, the situation in India was not the same when he had left India. Indian National Congress, the INC, was founded by Alan Octavian Hume, popularly known as A.O. Hume, in the year 1885, with Vimas Chandra Banerjee as the first president of the Indian National Congress. But before this, many battles and revolts had taken place in India, but they were not that much successful. Now, when Mahatma Gandhi came to India, there was a change. Even the nationalist movement had changed. In fact, the growth of nationalism can be divided into 3 phases. The first is from 1885, that is right from the inception of the Indian National Congress in 1885 to 1905. Now, what happened in 1905 was the Swadeshi movement. The Swadeshi movement took place in 1905. So, the first period from 1885 to 1905, this period is known as a period of moderates, the moderate period, wherein the leaders, they followed moderate ideas. They did not believe in violence. They believed in non-violence. Now, the second phase can be divided from 1905. It starts from 1905 up to 1917, that is with the Swadeshi movement, till 1917. Because 1917, it starts with the Gandhian era. So, Mahatma Gandhi had come to India in 1915, but from 15 to 17, he was not much into politics. He actually entered politics from 1917. Okay? So, the second phase from 1905 to 1907 is known as the extremist period, because the Swadeshi movement had given rise to 3 great extremist leaders, Lal, Bal, Pal. Now, Lal means Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal is Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Pal is Bipin Chandra Pal. Now, they believed in violence, extremist. So, in order to achieve their demands, in order to give justice to the people, they believed in extremist ideas. And the third phase of nationalism starts from 1917 to 1947, that is known as the Gandhian era. Now, let us see what happened when actually Mahatma Gandhi came to India. As I told you, he returned to India in the year 1915. From 1916 onwards, he started staying at the Sabarmati ashram in Gujarat. So, by the time he had come to India, there were a lot of changes in India. So, he was not aware of these changes that had taken place in India. He was not much aware of it. So, Gopal Krishna Gokhale advised him that if at all he has to know much about India and the Indian society, the Indian people, then he has to make a tour to the entire British India at least for 1 year. So that is the reason why Gopal Krishna Gokhale is known as the political mentor of Mahatma Gandhi. Now the next question over here is, what was the condition of the Indian society when Gandhi returned India? Because I told you he came after 20 years, so situation in India had changed. Even the Indian National Congress had become much active compared to what it was earlier. By now, the Indian National Congress or the Indian nationalism had reached amongst the middle classes. It had spread to the branches, to all the cities and towns, to different branches. The Swadeshi movement had become active amongst the middle classes. Now this Swadeshi movement had given rise to 3 great extremists, as I told you earlier: Lal Balpal, Lala Lajpat Rai from Punjab, Bal Gangadhar Tilak from Maharashtra, and we have Bipin Chandrapal from Bengal. So these are the people who believed in extremism. That means Indian National Congress had produced 2 leaders, extremists and the moderates. We move on to another question. Why is South Africa considered as the making of Mahatma? Now it was in South Africa that Mahatma Gandhi offered his first satyagraha. He offered his first satyagraha in South Africa. This was a technique of non-violence, satyagraha. Satya is truth, agraha is force. So he used this force of truth, non-violence in South Africa. And here he promoted harmony between religions. Here in fact he alerted the upper caste. He alerted the upper caste about their discrimination against the lower caste. So he was totally against the discrimination of the upper caste against the lower caste. And it was historian Chandran Devanesan who remarked that it was South Africa that made Mahatma the Mahatma. So when we talk about why South Africa is considered as the making of Mahatma, it is because he offered his first satyagraha in South Africa, and it is historian Chandran Devanesan who remarked that it was South Africa who made Mahatma the Mahatma. Now let us see how February 1916 turned or became a turning point. It was a turning point for Mahatma Gandhi. Now what happened in February 1916 that it became a turning point for Mahatma Gandhi? Now the Banaras Hindu University was supposed to be inaugurated in February 1916. And the Banaras Hindu University invited Mahatma Gandhi as one of the guests for the inaugural function. Why? Because he had offered his satyagraha in South Africa, and now the Banaras Hindu University wanted to felicitate him. So Mahatma Gandhi attended this inaugural function at the Banaras Hindu University, and the other Indian National Congress also attended this function because they too were invited. Now, you know that when you are called as a guest, you are asked to give a speech. So Mahatma Gandhi was also asked to speak on the occasion. So what ideas did he express? Now he blamed, in his speech, he blamed the Indian elite, the rich people, for showing lack of concern towards the laboring poor. Majority of the people in India are poor. And these few rich people were showing no concern towards the majority, that is to the people. So he attacked the elites, Indian elites. He said that there can be no salvation for India until and unless we strip off the jewelry and hold it in the trust of the countrymen. He said that there can be no spirit of self-government if one takes away the benefits of the peasants' hard work. So we cannot take the benefits away from the peasants' hard work. There can be no self-rule this way. Now his speech at Banaras Hindu University became so important that he became famous in India. It changed his life, political life in India. Now, why do you think that his speech at Banaras Hindu University became so important? It was because of one of the statements that he made. He said that Indian nationalism was an elite phenomenon, meaning it was a creation of lawyers, doctors and landlords. That means poor people were not the members of Indian nationalism. So he attacked the Indian elite and he promised that he will see to it that Indian nationalism becomes a movement of the people as a whole. So it becomes a mass movement as a whole. So this was his promise that he did. So his speech here at Banaras Hindu University is considered to be very, very important, which changed his political life. Now Mahatma Gandhi offered satyagrahas in India. As I told you, he offered his first satyagraha in South Africa. But in India, he offered his first satyagraha at a place called Champaran in Bihar in the year 1917. Now what happened at Champaran? Now in Champaran, the people of Bihar were forced to go in for indigo plantations. Now these indigo plantations had a great impact on the land. It had spoiled the land and also an impact on the life of the people, on the health of the people. So Mahatma Gandhi told the government to stop with these indigo plantations. The British had to bow down to the demands of Mahatma Gandhi. So Mahatma Gandhi was successful in his first satyagraha. Then next year in 1918, Mahatma Gandhi offered his satyagraha at Kedah in Gujarat. So in 1918, Mahatma Gandhi offered his satyagraha at Kedah in Gujarat. Now what happened at Kedah? In Kedah, the crops had failed and the peasants had to pay heavy taxes. So now the peasants, the workers, demanded that the taxes should be either, there should be either exemption of taxes or reduction of taxes, which the British refused. So Mahatma Gandhi told the peasants not to pay any taxes till their demands were met. So here also the British had no other option but to bow down to the demands of Mahatma Gandhi. In this way, Mahatma Gandhi was successful in his second satyagraha also. Then Mahatma Gandhi offered his third satyagraha in the same year 1918 at Ahmedabad in Gujarat. Now what happened at Ahmedabad in Gujarat? There was a dispute between the mill owners and the workers. The workers were demanding increase in wages by 50%, which was refused. The mill owners, they closed down their mills. So Mahatma Gandhi, he went on fast unto death. So the British had no option but to increase the wages of the workers. So it was increased to 35%, not 50%, but 35%, which was much better than doing nothing. So Mahatma Gandhi was successful in all his three satyagrahas. Seeing that Mahatma Gandhi was becoming successful in all the three satyagrahas, one after the other, the British were upset with this, and so they came forward, or they introduced what is known as the Rowlatt Act. Now what is this Rowlatt Act? Now Rowlatt Act is something which said that any person who is suspected of terrorism can be arrested without trial. That means that even an innocent person just can be accused of terrorism and can be arrested without any, and he can be imprisoned without any trial. So Mahatma Gandhi was against this Rowlatt Act, and so he gave a call for the non-cooperation movement in the year 1920. So Mahatma Gandhi started with his non-cooperation movement in the year 1920. In the meantime, something happened. During this time, the World War had just ended. The First World War had just ended. Now, after the end of the First World War, the position of the Caliph of Turkey was reduced. It was brought down. Now, the Caliph of Turkey was considered as head of the Muslims all over the world. So, when the position of the Caliph was brought down, the Muslims all over the world were upset. In India also, the Muslims, they were upset. So they started with this Khilafat movement against the British to end the colonial rule. So Mahatma Gandhi, he thought that this was the best opportunity for him to bring the Hindus and the Muslims together in fighting against the British rule and in ending the colonial rule. Now, what were the principles of the non-cooperation movement which was started in 1920? Now, Mahatma Gandhi told the Indians to stop attending the schools and colleges. So, all children, they were asked not to attend any schools and colleges. The lawyers, they also refused to go to the courts. The farmers, they refused to pay the taxes. In fact, Gandhiji taught the people the idea of self-discipline, self-denial, renunciation, ahimsa, satyagraha and non-cooperation. Now what he said is that if you want self-rule, because the main aim of the non-cooperation movement was self-rule. So if you want self-rule, then self-denial, self-discipline is very important. So until and unless you have self-discipline, there can be no self-rule. So this is what he emphasized. Now I told you that Mahatma Gandhi started with the non-cooperation movement in 1920. But within 2 years, in 1922, Mahatma Gandhi had to call off his non-cooperation movement. Now what made Mahatma Gandhi to call off this non-cooperation movement? Something happened in 1922. And what is that? A group of peasants were going on a procession at Chorao in Uttar Pradesh. And this group of peasants, they attacked a police station at Chorao in Uttar Pradesh. They put fire at the police stations, in which 22 police constables were killed. Now this was an act of violence. Mahatma Gandhi never liked violence. So now he felt that these people have still not understood the concept of non-violence. They have not understood the concept of self-discipline. He was so much upset that he called off the non-cooperation movement in 1922. Main reason, the Chorao incident. Now what are the effects of this Chorao incident? It shaken the British Raj. It made them feel that their Raj is not safe now. Thousands of Indians were put into jail and Mahatma Gandhi was also arrested in March 1922. Now let us see why Mahatma Gandhi is called the leader of the masses, leader of the people. Now Mahatma Gandhi, as I told you earlier, in his Banaras Hindu University speech, he had promised to the people that he will see to it that Indian nationalism will not be a movement only of the rich people, but he will see that it becomes a mass movement, a movement of the people. So non-cooperation movement actually became a movement of the people. So thereby he kept his promise, what he had said in his speech at Banaras Hindu University. So now this Indian nationalism was no longer a movement of the intellectuals and professionals, because many peasants and artisans also participated in the non-cooperation movement. Now he is also called as the leader of masses. People called him Mahatma, the great soul. People liked him because the way he dressed up like the ordinary people, like the poor people. People liked him because the way he spoke. And that is why he is called as the leader of the masses. Now the act of spinning which Mahatma Gandhi started also broke the boundaries that prevailed within the traditional caste system. So this made him the leader of the masses. Now let us see another question, why people boycotted the Simon Commission. Now the Simon Commission was sent to India in the year 1928 to study about the constitutional reforms. Certain reforms had to be introduced in the constitution. So Simon Commission under Simon was sent to India. Now if you have to introduce certain reforms in the constitution, then some Indians also had to be the members of this commission, which was not so. There was not a single Indian as a representative of India in this commission. So people boycotted the Simon Commission. They shouted with slogans, "Go back Simon," and they protested with black flags. Now we move on to the Lahore session of 1929. Now the Congress, every year they are having their sessions at different places with different leaders as the presidents. Now, in the year 1929, the Congress session was held at a place called Lahore. Now, why it became important? What is the significance of this Lahore session? At the Lahore session of 1929, Jawaharlal Nehru became the president of this session, thereby transferring the leadership, passing on the leadership to the younger generation. Earlier, only the older people, the elderly people used to become the presidents, but with Jawaharlal Nehru, now the leadership passed into the hands of the younger generation. Second reason why the Lahore session became important is because it was at this session that Purna Swaraj came up. They demanded complete independence, full independence at this session, Lahore session. And third reason why the Lahore session became important is 26th of January 1930 was to be observed as the Independence Day of India, and national flags were to be hoisted at different places. So these are the three reasons why Lahore session became very, very important. Then next year 1930 we have the Dandi March. Now what is this Dandi March? Dandi March is also known as the Salt March. The British had introduced one law in India known as the Salt Law, which said that manufacturing of salt and the sale of salt will be the monopoly of the British. No Indians can manufacture salt. They cannot sell the salt. Even the people could not manufacture little salt for the domestic purpose. If at all they wanted salt, they had to buy it from the shops at a higher rates. So Mahatma Gandhi was against this salt law, and so he gave a call for the Dandi March. So on 12th of March 1930, he started with his Dandi March from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi, thereby making a fistful of salt. Now let us see the aftermath of the Dandi March. Mahatma Gandhi had given a call for civil disobedience movement where people were asked not to obey the government, not to obey the rules of the government. So here the factory workers went on strike, the students also boycotted the classes, the lawyers boycotted the British courts. Now let us see the significance why Dandi March became very important. Dandi March became important because Mahatma Gandhi became very famous worldwide. All over the world, people were talking about him. Even the press in America started bringing news about Mahatma Gandhi. So he became famous worldwide. Secondly, large number of women participated in this Dandi March, because the socialist activist by name Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, she persuaded Gandhiji not to restrict this Dandi March only to men, but also permit the women to take part. And so, large number of women participated in this Dandi March. Another significance of the Salt March or the Dandi March is that it made the British realize that their rule, their Raj will not last for long in India, and so certain powers, some powers had to be given to the Indians. So these are some of the points where Salt March or the Dandi March became very important. Now we move on to the Roundtable conferences. Now the Simon Commission, which was sent to India in 1928 to study about the constitutional reforms, it could not give adequate report to the British. So if at all reforms had to be introduced, then they wanted to have a meeting with the Indian leaders. So they came up with a series of roundtable conferences. The first roundtable conference was held in the year 1930. Second roundtable conference was held in the year 1931. And the third roundtable conference was held in the year 1922. All the conferences were held in London. Let us see each one of them in detail now. The first roundtable conference, which was held in November 1930 in London, was not attended by any Indian representative. Not a single Indian attended it. Why? Because most of the leaders were in prison during this time. So since the Indians did not participate in the first roundtable conference, it was a failure. Now, If at all the leaders had to attend the second Roundtable conference, then the British had to make sure that Indians attend this conference. So Lord Ivan was asked to compromise or have a talk with Mahatma Gandhi. So Lord Ivan and Mahatma Gandhi, they met each other. The Gandhi-Ivan Pact was signed. And as per the Gandhi-Ivan Pact, according to the Gandhi-Ivan Pact, Mahatma Gandhi agreed to call off the civil disobedience movement which he had started. He also said that he would attend the second Roundtable conference. And in return, Lord Ivan said or agreed to release the prisoners and also allowed the manufacture of salt in India by the Indians. Now we move on to the second Roundtable conference. So the second Roundtable conference was held in 1931, again in London. This time it was attended by Mahatma Gandhi. However, he had to return back because some of his demands were not met. Now in the second Roundtable conference, Mahatma Gandhi said that he represented the whole of India. But those people who were present for the conference disagreed. They did not accept what Mahatma Gandhi said because they said that in India, there are some states in India which are ruled by the princely states. So Mahatma Gandhi cannot represent them. He cannot represent the whole of India. So Mahatma Gandhi had to return. Now the third Roundtable conference was held in the year 1932 in London. This time also not a single Indian attended this conference. We now move on to the Government of India Act 1935. Now this Government of India Act 1935 promised to form a representative government. And if a representative form of government had to be formed, then what was important was to have elections. So in the year 1937, elections were held, and these elections, Congress won the majority in 8 provinces out of 11. Now let us see what was the attitude of the Indian leaders during the Second World War. Now the Second World War broke out in the year 1939. And now the British wanted the help of the Indian leaders to send the Indian people, Indian army, to help in the war efforts. In the meantime, what had happened is that Mahatma Gandhi and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, they never liked the idea of Nazism. They were against the Nazi ideas. And so they decided to help the British in the war efforts on one condition, that they will give independence to India immediately after the war. The moment the war ends, they would give independence to India, to which they refused. So the Indian ministry, which was formed in 1937, they resigned in October 1939. The Muslim League, which was also formed by the Muslims, they also came up with a resolution. They said that now we cannot live any longer in India. We want a separate country for ourselves called Pakistan. So Muslim League also started demanding for a separate country for themselves called Pakistan. In the year 1942, Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of England, he sent the Cripps mission to India under Sir Stafford Cripps to compromise with Mahatma Gandhi and Congress. Now the Congress demanded the appointment of an Indian as a defense member of the Executive Council. So the Congress said that the Indian member should be, or an Indian person should be included as a defense member, to which the Cripps mission refused, and so it failed. In 1942, Mahatma Gandhi started with another movement known as the Quit India movement or Bharat Choro Andolan, in which he gave a slogan, do or die, karenge ya marenge. So on 8th of August 1942, at the Congress session in Bombay, Mahatma Gandhi gave this idea a call for the Quit India movement. Somehow the British came to know about this, that they are going to start with the Quit India movement. So all the Indian leaders, including Mahatma Gandhi, were detained. So next day on 9th of August 1942, the people were left without any leaders, but what they knew is that Mahatma Gandhi has given a call, Bharat Choro Andolan, Quit India movement, and the slogan is Karenge ya marenge, do or die. So now they took up the leadership. The people, ordinary people came in the forefront to take up the leadership, and they acted the way they wanted. They organized strikes, destruction all over the country, and Jai Prakash Narayan was very active in this movement. People attacked the government treasury, looted government treasury. Now this movement, Quit India movement, is also known as a mass movement because hundreds and thousands of ordinary people came in the forefront. It energized the young in large numbers who even left the schools and colleges to go to jail. What was the role of the Muslim League in the Quit India movement? Now during the Quit India movement, the Muslim League worked patiently and expanded their influence in the areas like Punjab and Sindh. And it was Muhammad Ali Jinnah who demanded a separate state for the Muslims called Pakistan. Then in the year 1946, elections were held. Let us see what was the outcome of this election. So fresh elections were held to the provincial legislature, and in this election, the Congress won the majority in the general category. So in the general category, the Congress won the majority. But in those areas where the the seats were reserved for the Muslims, the Muslim League won the majority. So a cabinet mission was sent to India in 1946 to discuss with the Congress and the Muslim League about the federal system wherein India could remain unified, it could remain united, to which Muhammad Ali Jinnah refused, and he called for a direct action day demanding a separate state for the Muslims called Pakistan. On 16th of August 1946, many riots took place in different places, Calcutta, and it spread to Bengal, Bihar, United Province and Punjab. Now in the year February 1947, Lord Mountbatten was sent as a Viceroy of India in place of Lord Wavell. So Lord Mountbatten, he tried his best to convince both the Congress as well as Muhammad Ali Jinnah, but Jinnah refused, and he was very firm on his demand of having Pakistan as a separate state for the Muslims. So Lord Mountbatten had no other option, and so he announced that British India would not only be free, but also it will be divided. So the transfer of power was fixed to 15th of August 1947. India got its independence on 15th of August 1947. That was a transfer of power. But India was also divided into two, India and Pakistan. Have a look at the map over there. If you see the map, India is divided into two, India and Pakistan. But Pakistan is further divided into two, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. What you can see there over green color, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Because this division was done on the basis of religion. And we had majority of the Muslims on both sides, in Bengal as well as in Punjab. So the division was done on the basis of religion, and that is how we have the creation of Pakistan into two, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Today we know that East Pakistan has become Bangladesh after the 1971 war. So with this, we have seen now how right from 1915, with the return of Mahatma Gandhi to India from South Africa, how the nationalist movement gained its strength, and finally how it gave rise to, or it led to, the independence of a country in 1947. However, India was also divided into two, India and Pakistan. Let us have a quick brief summary of the entire chapter. As I told you, Mahatma Gandhi returned to India in the year 1915. He became very popular in 1916 with his speech at the Banaras Hindu University. Now, Indian National Congress was divided into three phases. The moderate phase from 1885 to 1905, that is 1885, the inception of the Indian National Congress, 1905, the Swadeshi movement. Swadeshi movement gave rise to the three extremist leaders, Lal, Bal and Pal. So this extremist period is from 1905 to 1917. 1917, Mahatma Gandhi enters politics, so it is known as the Gandhian era. Then we saw how Mahatma Gandhi offered his satyagrahas in India, first at Champaran in 1917, then we have Kedah in 1918 and Gujarat and Ahmedabad in 1918, his third satyagraha. We also saw how Mahatma Gandhi gave a call for the non-cooperation movement in 1920 because of the Rowlatt Act that was passed by the British government. We saw how Mahatma Gandhi was called as a leader of the masses because it was he who made Indian nationalism a movement of the poor people, movement of all the people as a whole, how people liked him because of his dress, because the way he spoke. Then we saw how the non-cooperation movement was called off because of the Chorao incident wherein the peasants attacked the police station, 22 police constables were killed. Mahatma Gandhi was very much upset because of these violent ideas, so he called off the non-cooperation movement. We saw how the people protested the Simon Commission because there was not a single Indian in it. Then we saw how the Lahore session, which was held in the year 1929, became very important, very significant because the leadership passed to the younger generation. Purna Swaraj was demanded. 26th of January 1930 was fixed as India's, it was to be observed as India's Independence Day. So we have seen all these things, and then we saw how the 3 roundtable conferences were held. The first one was a failure because not a single Indian participated in it. Second one, Mahatma Gandhi did participate, but his demands were not met, so he had to return. The third roundtable conference was also not attended by the Indian leaders. Then we saw the Government of India Act, which was passed in the year 1935, wherein elections were held and the Congress won the majority in 8 provinces out of 11. However, they resigned because their demands were not listened to. Then we saw the cabinet mission. Before that, we have the Quit India movement, which was started by Mahatma Gandhi in 1942, which became a mass movement. The ordinary people participated in it. Then we saw how the cabinet mission was sent in 1946 to convince the leaders to have a federal system, but that was also not successful. The Muslim League demanded Pakistan for Muslims. Finally, in the year 1947, Lord Mountbatten comes as a viceroy, the last viceroy of India, and finally he says that British India will be free, but it will be divided into 2. So finally, India got its independence on 15th of August 1947, but India was divided into 2, India and Pakistan. I hope, children, you have understood this lesson. Thank you very much, and a big thank you to Prudent Media and the Principals Forum for giving me this opportunity to explain this chapter to you. Thank you.
Prudent Scholars, powered by Lupin Pharmaceuticals.